Welcome to Quidditch Champions Mastery. Today I'm your Oliver Wood, ready to help you sharpen your skills and excel as a chaser. In this ultimate guide, I'll start by walking you through some key maneuvers to get familiar with, then we'll gradually build up to more advanced tactics and skills. I'll also point out some common mistakes to avoid as you play. Now, I'm not claiming to be the best player, but these tips and tricks come from plenty of trial and error and have helped me hold my own in every match. So, without further ado, let's hop on the broom and get to work. First, let's start with a little warm-up to make sure you're up to date on certain flying maneuvers and key moves the game's tutorial fails to explain properly, like the U-turn. To help keep the momentum going in intense moments, you gotta get comfortable with alternating between boosting and drifting very fast. But the problem is that drifting kills your boost. That's why it is better to add a dodge to your U-turns. Whenever you find the need for it, start by engaging the drift. Push the camera stick to the left, then tap the dodge button to do a barrel roll in that direction. By the end of the roll, you'll have already turned 140 degrees. After that, simply hit the boost to correct the final 40 degrees and keep moving. For sharper turns like 90 or 120 degrees, you don't need the barrel roll. Just engage the drift, push the camera stick in the direction you want to turn, and immediately re-engage the boost. It's also important to point out that you can still grab the ball during the dodge. And I know we've all been in this situation, so instead of desperately continuing to orbit the quaffle, slow down and dodge in the direction of the ball. In the moments when it falls right below you, the only best thing that you can do is descend all the way down and make a U-turn. You can try to dodge down, but you better save it to use moments later. Also, get comfortable using the focus cam while navigating. It is incredibly disorienting at first, but once you get used to it, it will help you make better decisions in real time and let you intercept and tackle opponents even when you don't have a clear view of the target. It's kind of like getting used to driving in reverse, but on a broom. Now let's break down the key stages of a match and walk through some common scenarios you'll face as a chaser. It took me dozens of games to figure out why I could never snatch the quaffle at the start. Turns out it all comes down to poor timing and aim. See, the tackle doesn't follow a straight line. Each time you leap, your character arches upwards before sinking down in a curved trajectory. To grab the quaffle right away, you need to aim slightly below it and predict where the ball will be when you leap. If you aim right at it, you'll just end up hopping over it. In this first phase of a match, you're racing against time until the snitch appears, which will shift your tactics, and you want to score as many goals as possible before that happens. Here's a trick I learned from my friend Roxy. Instead of flying all the way to the rings, just charge and throw the quaffle toward the rings right from the center of the field. Now, you might think, well, that's not helpful because the chances of missing are way too high, but here's why this is a smart move. At this moment, you got a problem. The other chasers are full of boosts, and if they have a great acceleration on the brooms, they'll catch up to you really fast. Plus, you'll probably run out of the boost yourself by the time you reach the rings and or likely get targeted by a beater, leaving you unable to act effectively if you miss the rings. By throwing the quaffle right away, you'll gift it to the keeper, but what you do next is wait. Wait until the enemy's chasers rush toward the other side, spending their boosts. Then, when the keeper passes the quaffle to one of them, you gracefully intercept it and shoot for the hoops. This move doesn't take much longer than flying all the way to the rings, and it is a lot less risky. Remember, it is much easier to handle chasers when A, they're low on energy, and B, you're ahead of them. Also, chances are the keepers won't expect it, and you might score by sheer luck. Keepers are dead for about 10 seconds at the start of a match while they're trying to place the boost rings. And even in PvP, other players will be focusing on grabbing the quaffle, so there is a good chance those keepers will be bots. I mean, of course, you can stick to the usual advancement to the rings right away if you're confident in your scoring skills, but give this tactic a shot and see if it makes a difference. Ideally, you want to score 30 or 40 points by the time the snitch appears. To maximize your chances, position yourself at the center of the field but slightly off to the side, ready to intercept the incoming quaffle carrier. It's always easier to intercept them when coming from the sides. Approach at a slight angle, and just like with a quaffle, aim slightly below them. But be quick and decisive, you don't want to wait too long or they will dodge. Once you've got the ball, shift into the original trajectory of the chaser you just tackled. Most players are less likely to use the U-turn and will end up making a long, curved 5-mile turn. By positioning yourself in their original path, you'll buy yourself more time before they catch up. When you're close to the rings, you want to use the universal sports maneuver I mentioned in my previous video, bluffing.
And he makes the shot.
This is when you make the goalkeeper assume the direction you're going to shoot, forcing them to take action based on that assumption, which leaves an open window for you to score. In Quidditch Champions, it works the same way. The key is to decide in advance which rank you're going to shoot for. Ideally, you want to isolate the ranks into 2 groups, the left ring and the 2 right ones. Treat the middle and the right ring as one ring to rule them all. Here's a trick that I like to use. Instead of actually changing direction, perform a side barrel roll. The barrel roll is a big movement, so it's easier for the keeper to notice from a distance, making them follow your roll. Ideally, you want to start flying toward the left ring. As you get closer and see the keeper move to cover it, dodge to the right and quickly throw the quaffle to the left ring. The dodge doesn't change your altitude, so you need to slightly adjust your aim to the left. By doing this, you'll confuse the keeper into using the quick tackle button, which buys you those extra milliseconds. But just make sure to do the quick throw, don't charge it. But be aware that bots learn from your patterns and tricks, and real players know this tactic well. So when you do the barrel roll, they might expect you to switch directions, and sometimes not switching direction can be the real trick. I know it's a mind game and it's a little confusing, this situation, but the key point is don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. If you're flying toward the goal and there's an open ring, just go for it. I know it sounds almost too simple, but I've lost count of how many times I've been heading for the empty ring only to second guess myself at the last second, switch into another ring and end up handing the quaffle to the keeper, or worse. So when you got the shot, take it. Of course, you won't always be lucky, and sometimes you'll find yourself racing after a chaser, desperately trying to intercept before they score. To keep up, make sure you have good speed, acceleration, and boost efficiency. Clean Sweep and Firebolt are great options for catching up with other chasers. The key here is acceleration, though. It is so crucial when utilizing those sharp turns, letting you keep up with the pace while staying agile. That's why Clean Sweep so far has been my favorite broom for chasers. Speed is important, like in Firebolt, but without good acceleration, you'll simply waste time and burn through your boost. But if you're falling significantly behind, don't waste your energy trying to catch up with them. Let the players who are closer handle it. Instead, recharge your boost and get ready to accept a pass if your teammates manage to stop the attack. You'll do more good by staying ready, because if they're already far away, you're not gonna help anyways. If you're the lucky one who successfully caught up and intercepted the quaffle, don't immediately turn around and try to fly all the way back with your boost completely depleted. Instead, pass the quaffle to your keeper. This will buy you a few seconds to slow down, regenerate your boost, and back off toward the center of the field. And by the time you receive the pass again, you'll be fully recharged and ready to make a quick move toward the enemy rings and score. This is a smart play because it also leaves the enemy chasers struggling with low boost themselves. Again, always the fact that they have the boost is the biggest problem. Leaving them without a boost, leaving them without the ability to catch up, is something you should always keep in your mind. Without, of course, forgetting the fact that you also have a boost. Now I want to quickly go over a few common mistakes every chaser makes and should avoid. Flying in a straight line makes you an easy target for incoming tackles. Instead, move in a curved, snaky pattern when carrying the quaffle. Make wide banks and always pay attention to the red arrows showing the other player's positions. When these arrows turn yellow, dodge immediately, ideally vertically, as it tends to be the most effective. But remember to reinitiate your boost right after dodging, as it will be cancelled otherwise. Not passing the quaffle is probably even worse than flying in a straight line. A thrown quaffle flies way faster than you can, and it can leap across a quarter of a field's distance to your teammate who will carry it further. This will keep the momentum going without running out of boost. Just overall, if you're holding a quaffle for 5 seconds, you're holding it too long. In the same way, be available for a pass. So many times I've been flying with a ball in my hand with both of the chasers flying in front of me and none of them being open for a pass. Don't waste your boost unnecessarily. If you don't have the quaffle or aren't actively trying to get one, save your boost. You'll need it when the teammate passes the quaffle to you. And there are plenty of ways how to preserve the boost while carrying the quaffle, which I'll make sure to cover in future videos. Avoid clustering with your teammates. Instead, spread out and cover half of the field. That way, you'll always have a teammate within a quarter of a field's distance to pass the quaffle to, making your play smoother and more effective. Now let's talk about Chaser's worst enemy, the bludger. They are super fast, often hard to track, and sometimes the game doesn't even warn you that they're coming. Dodging bludger can be tricky at first, especially since the game doesn't give you proper training for it. When the beater sends a bludger your way, you'll see a red meter around your character, indicating the bludger's distance. The burgundy arrow that appears shows direction the bludger is coming from, along with a tiny bludger animation inching closer. Now, you need to decide 2 things in this moment: when to dodge and where. First, focus on where. Ideally, dodge in the direction the bludger is coming from. The bludger's trajectory usually isn't sharp, so dodging into its path will get you hit. If you don't see the arrow, it's coming from below or straight ahead, dodge down. If all you see is a dot, it's coming right behind you, dodge anywhere. Of course, there's always a chance the bludger will still hit you, but this strategy significantly lowers the odds. When it comes to timing, wait until the gauge fills until halfway of the middle, thicker section. I know it's easy to get scared and dodge right away, but that would be a fatal mistake. Also keep in mind that tackling is also dodging. When you find yourself in a position where you can either grab the quaffle or dodge, you can wait until the meter gets close and tackle then. The direction might not be in your favor, so there's a higher chance of the bludger still hitting you, but you might end up in the win here anyway, since you will interrupt the chaser from escaping, you will deal some damage to them, and let the quaffle loose, allowing for a quick shuffle of the situation. Or if you get lucky, you won't get hit and fly away with a quaffle in your hands. Also, something the game doesn't tell you, you can kick the bludger using the kick shot unlocked in the Chaser skill tree. While it says this only works for the quaffle, it works perfectly on the bludger too, and you don't have to be even facing the quaffle. But unfortunately, it won't send bludger back to the beater, but you can always sack them right after. Now, you've probably noticed that we haven't gotten to the part where the snitch appears. That's because so much can happen in those first 2 minutes, and I wanted to give you everything necessary to help you kickstart your match and give your team the lead. When the snitch actually appears, you've got 2 options. 1, continue playing as a chaser and use the time while seekers are chasing the snitch to push your team even further ahead, making the enemy seeker's catch irrelevant. And 2, switch to beater and make it your mission to make the enemy seeker's life a living hell. And that's exactly what I will cover in my next Quidditch Champions Mastery, the Beater Ultimate Guide. As for chasers, I will continue this guide in part 2. Let me know if this session was helpful to you. Did you learn something new, or maybe you've got a trick to teach me? Leave it all in the comments. For now, guys, set your brooms to rest. Don't forget to polish them. And if you like this guide, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, and all the other buttons of that nature. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.